watching the world tonight here at BNC. Philando Castile, Stephon Clark, Dante Wright, Rayshard Brooks, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and the list goes on. All the names of blacks killed by police. Say their names, and yet after months of protesting and years of calling for change, black people are still finding our place in a place saying their names. New data revealing that the number of black people killed by police has in fact gone up over the last 2 years. Data collected by the Washington Post showing police shot and killed at least 1,055 people nationwide last year. That's more than the 1,021 shootings in 2020 and the 999 in 2019. Retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey is here with us now to talk about this. And Sergeant Dorsey, it's always good to see you, Cheryl. This is, the most blacks killed at the hands of police since the newspaper began tracking fatal shootings by officers in 2015. And there were pushes for reform, as you know, nationally talked about, national outrage that it didn't happen, and still a call for action to get police reform done. It was in the news every other day. What do you think is going on? And what has to happen for there to be more progress in reducing this number of black Americans killed at the hands of police officers?
Well, I think partly what needs to happen is that black folks need to get involved and get engaged. We need to do this for ourselves. We need to quit waiting around for others to fix this problem, because we get a lot of lip service from so-called political leaders and air quote civil rights attorneys who are seemingly more interested in a money grab, civil settlements, right? Rather than really effectively, substantively changing police policy and procedure. I mean, just on yesterday, Officer Hankerson, who shot and killed Breonna Taylor, or who was involved in that no-knock warrant, was found not guilty, not for killing Breonna Taylor, right, but for shooting into the residence of her neighbor. And even in doing that, because great deference is given to what a police officer says, I was trying to make sure my partners were not in any physical danger or deadly danger. I fired into that structure, and he was acquitted. Great deference is given to what officers are saying. And so we have to get involved and get engaged ourselves. We need to put people in political positions who have an appetite to really make a change. We need to demand that police chiefs hire folks who look like me, think like me, and talk like me on these departments, so somebody like me can step in when an Aaron Dean is outside of a Tatiana Jefferson's home, or pull Derek Chauvin off of George Floyd. We do a lot of talk, but we're not doing a lot to back up that talk.
So you're calling for action within our own community, being more proactive. How do you propose we do that, and getting beyond the noise and the talking and start getting things done on a ground game level, and going to police officers and police chiefs and the mayors, as some groups have done in Chicago, calling the mayor and the police chief into account and having face-to-face meetings with them about how do we change this neighborhood so that our kids stop getting killed by each other and by your officers?
Absolutely, we have to get involved. And listen, if this were easy, everyone would do it. I understand that. This has been going on for so long. The problems are systemic to police departments, all 18,000 of them. It's cultural, it's top-down, and I mean police chief, because every police chief was once a police officer, so when they get on TV and clutch their pearls and act surprised about how police officers are behaving, they're being intellectually dishonest. And so we've got to hold their feet to the fire. Every police chief serves at the pleasure of an elected mayor. District attorneys who won't prosecute these errant officers are elected. Sheriffs are elected. And so we have to physically, personally get involved. Go out and meet with these people. When you have a shooting in your community and the police chief is giving you code talk and double talk, you need to hold his feet to the fire. And if he's not willing to address quality of life issues in your community, then you need to make sure that someone replaces him. And if the mayor supports his nonsense, then the mayor can go too.
Yeah, and sure, you're talking about the power of voting, and that is something that we're fighting for as well, our voting rights. But I want to get back to the point. You're making a very good point. I'm reminded of where I once lived, being actively engaged in the police and the community through my wife's organization. And we talked to police officers. We had them come talk to the black youth to try to remove any guise of implicit bias and getting them to know each other on a level of saying, we've got to trust each other and we've got to be able to work through this. That's from the chief to the mayor to the all the way from the top to the bottom. Is that what police reform looks like if you don't have the federal government stepping in to do the right thing and pass the George Floyd Policing Reform Act?
That's part of it. And listen, the George Floyd Reform Act is going to do a lot of stuff on a federal level, but it's not going to do anything to stop a police chief because they have great authority and autonomy over their police department. And so, yes, you need to know the police because, listen, they're not going anywhere. We need police officers. There's a segment of society that would love to prey on folks absent the police. And so we just heard the president speak at the State of the Union about not defunding the police, which I'm against as well. I'm not for defunding the police. I think we need to make a concerted effort, we being black folks, to get on these police departments. And I say that knowing full well that police chiefs don't have an appetite to really recruit us. So let's quit waiting around for them to do it. Let's create these kinds of opportunities in our own communities and get on these police departments. Young people go crazy when I say it, but if the word infiltrate works for you young people, then infiltrate these police departments because KKK, neo-Nazi, and white supremacists, according to FBI, DOJ reports, have been doing it for decades.
Dang on, Cheryl, you just went there, didn't you? That's good. I like the way you went there. And in tribute to the two police officers who recently died in New York City, they went there. They went in because they grew up in hard-hit areas and they knew there was a problem. And they said, we're going to protect and defend our community and protect our kids from being killed by police officers. Kudos to them. But kudos to you, Cheryl, for always being out there in front. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, thank you for joining us this hour.